Good morning, and thank you for joining us as we celebrate Early Ed Month in Louisiana. My name is Dr. Libby Saunier, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. I'm honored to welcome all of you to our virtual business breakfast briefing this morning. I'd like to, I would like, also like to thank our title sponsor, Entergy. Simply put, Louisiana Early Ed Month 2025 would not be possible without their generous support. I would also like to recognize and thank the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry for being our co-host of today's event and the entire Early Ed Month. LABI works towards fostering a climate for economic growth through consistently championing the principles of free enterprise system, and we appreciate how they have made a focus on early childhood education as a key part of their platform. Early childhood education is one of the most essential services that forms the backbone of our nation's economy. Without safe, quality, early childhood education for their children, parents simply cannot be full participants in the workforce. The impact of limited access to affordable, high quality childcare extends beyond working families, affecting employers and overall the state's economy. To put context around this, childcare breakdowns cost Louisiana businesses $762 million annually, and it causes our state's economy to lose 1.3 billion per year. Again, this is due to the impacts of childcare breakdowns on working parents. On today's briefing, you will hear from business and industry leaders on the importance of early childhood education as it relates to the Louisiana's workforce. During this morning's event, and for the rest of today and next week, we invite you to share your participation on social media using the hashtag Early Ed Month. This month may be coming to a close next week, but our work for Louisiana's youngest learners is only just beginning. I'd now like to take the moment to turn the mic over to Will Green, President and CEO of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. He will share a few remarks with you all and introduce you to this morning's keynote speaker. Will?
Thank you, Libby. We are excited to co-host this event with you today. As the leader of business and industry in Louisiana, LABI has been a long-standing partner in supporting early childhood investments because we know how critical it is for Louisiana's workforce. 2/3 of Louisiana children have all available parents in the workforce, meaning that many of our families rely on access to early childhood programs. As a working father myself, access to early childhood education centers was especially important because it provided structured, age-based learning, socialization, and care while allowing me and my wife to balance parenthood and our children's development without sacrificing our careers. Thanks to the great early learning center my kids attended, they were kindergarten ready. So I'm obviously a fan and know firsthand early childhood options empowered my working family. Speaking of empowering our workforce, I'd now like to introduce today's keynote speaker, Susie Schoen. Susie Schoen serves as the Secretary of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. She was appointed by Governor Jeff Landry in January of 2024. Prior to joining the LWC, she spent 2 years as the Vice President of Early Education at the Louisiana Community and Technical College System. And before that, she was at LED Fast Start, the Workforce Development Division of Louisiana Economic Development, for over 10 years. Through all those roles, Susie is focused on building coalitions of industry partners, economic developers, and educators to align education and workforce development efforts with the needs of employers and the economy, increasing the prosperity of our people and our communities. She takes a highly innovative and employer-responsive approach, restructuring systems to lift individuals out of poverty while driving economic growth, and measuring success using performance-based models that reward results, not promises. She also works across agencies with regional partners to identify inefficiencies in the system and better align the development of social services with workforce development efforts. Susie has degrees in chemistry from Wesley College and Columbia University. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to turn today's program over to Susie.
Thank you, Will, for the introduction, and I think it's probably almost as long as my keynote presentation, but I appreciate you very much. At the Louisiana Workforce Commission, we have three main strategic goals: driving economic growth through business workforce solutions, fostering the American dream by moving people from dependence to independence, and ensuring that education leads to a vocation by helping our educational systems align to the needs of the economy. That second goal, the American dream, requires that we help our people overcome obstacles to full employment, self-sufficiency, and prosperity. We know that a lack of access to safe, affordable childcare is a major obstacle preventing people from getting to educational opportunities and to work. And for that very reason, lack of access to childcare impedes the first goal, which is driving economic growth through business workforce solutions. If people can't get to job training or to work, our employers will not be able to find the talent that they need to prosper and grow in Louisiana. As a public servant, it is staggering to know the toll that lack of access to affordable, high-quality early childhood education, i.e. childcare, is taking on employers across the state. Quite simply, a lack of access to childcare on the part of employees and potential workers is a significant barrier to economic growth for employers of all sizes, from small businesses to large corporations. As we heard Will mention, and likely you know from knowing your employees well, about 2/3 of children under the age of 5 have all of their available parents in the workforce. But those parents may not be participating in the workforce as fully as they could be. In a 2024 statewide parent poll, Louisiana employees reported missing work, leaving or changing jobs, coming in late, or leaving early because their childcare situation was unreliable, unaffordable, inaccessible, or some combination of the three. We also know that there are a significant number of parents who very much want to work and be productive, but they are literally unable to do so due to not having access to affordable childcare. Many of these people are forced to, essentially, they must rely on public benefits in order to survive. We and others who work in the world of public benefits speak every day with people struggling with dependence on public systems with no clear path available to them to reach self-sufficiency. We are committed to helping these people on the path from dependence to independence. One of the phrases that always really resonates with me on this topic is that the current system makes poverty survivable, but not escapable. We have to do better. We owe it to our people and our employers to do better. Furthermore, researchers at UL Lafayette's Blanco Center found that employee absences and turnover due to childcare issues cost Louisiana employers about $760 million a year. Early childhood education all by itself is a fantastic investment of resources due to the benefits that ultimately accrue to the child, him or herself. But it has an immediate return on investment as well. So we've got the long-term financial investment, return on investment, and we also have the immediate return on investment because, as I have indicated, if more parents have access to high-quality early childhood programs, they are more likely to go to work and achieve self-sufficiency, fully participating in the American dream and providing employers with access to great talent in Louisiana. We create long-term economic results through a focus on early childhood education. Research shows that children who are in high-quality early childhood programs are more likely to be successful in the workforce and create wealth for themselves and their communities. So there's a twofold issue. A lack of affordable quality childcare has a substantial impact on the workforce of today, and it affects the workforce of tomorrow. As business leaders and public servants, we have an opportunity to build 2 generations of a strong, competitive workforce that drives economic growth. I am committed to supporting well-crafted childcare solutions that are fiscally responsible and tied to practical near-term workforce outcomes, as well as long-term returns on investment. I hope you are too. And now it is my pleasure to turn it over to Dr. Candace Weber, Chief of Partnerships at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children, to moderate the next portion of today's event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you so much for sharing your insight and your time with us this morning. So now we'll move into our panel discussion with a few more business and industry leaders. So I will give brief introductions and then we'll jump right into the questions. First, we have with us this morning, Adam Knapp. He is the CEO of Leaders for a Better Louisiana. We have with us Mandy Mitchell, President and CEO of the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. We have Aaron Merchant, Executive Director at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And then we welcome back Will Green, President and CEO of Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Welcome, everyone, and good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so this first question is for Adam and Will. So Adam, let's start with you. What challenges have you seen businesses face due to employees unable to access reliable childcare?
Well, much like you heard, I think, from our 2 earlier speakers, and thank you so much for having us on the program. I think we've heard from employers pretty consistently that access to workers in general has been a struggle really in the last 4 years since COVID, especially. And that crunch that's happening across the workforce needs kind of a broad-based set of solutions. One of the big ones that we've been excited about is this sort of, I think, kind of dual benefit of a bigger emphasis around sort of access to childcare as a part of that solution. What you hear from employers is they're trying to look for new and creative ways to find access to those programs, that they can partner in communities to do that. We've seen that happening across Louisiana, north, south, east, and west, which has been encouraging. That I think state policymakers have been making an emphasis around this, and that the business communities around Louisiana have really been responding. But hopefully what we see from that is really an emphasis that it's going to drive forward solutions to overall access to workforce issues in creative ways. One thing that I think was interesting that came out in some of the earlier comments is kind of the effect that working around this issue has, not only on the importance of childcare access and what it means for the workforce and what it means for employers, but what it does across the entire labor force. Louisiana has a very low labor force participation compared to other states. And some of the ways that you can improve that is just making it clear and easy for all members of the workforce to have access to workforce, and where access to childcare can become a barrier for some workers, especially women across the workforce. It can improve overall labor force participation. We saw some data on this that 1 in 3 female workers will cite that access to childcare as one of the biggest barriers for choosing to work or cutting back hours. And then you also see some data that just addressing access to childcare as a state policy issue and can increase the labor force participation of the state, among many other things that the state can do. So we think it's not only a benefit to employers, but also has this economic growth potential that can come from it.
Absolutely. Will, what would you add to that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Adam touched on a lot of the great points, right? I mean, Louisiana right now, I mean, we're doing some transformative things to grow business here and to bring business here. And the last thing we want is a workforce that's not responsive to that. And so, I mean, if we don't have access to reliable childcare, especially in some of our rural areas, I mean, the reality is Louisiana, we do have a lot of rural parts of this state. It's going to cause disruption for employers because, you're going to have frequent late arrivals to work. You have parents missing work. And so, here we are doing everything we can to bring in these companies and to bring in these businesses and to grow businesses and to expand businesses and to create policies at the legislature and through regulation and, through our workforce commission to grow business. And then we need a reliable workforce, to fill those jobs. And so as parents look to come back to the workforce or to participate in the workforce, especially parents with young kids, they need a reliable childcare center, to be able to go to, or to be able to have their kids to attend. And so it really is having access to a reliable childcare center is a win-win. It's a win for the parent and it's a win for the business. And so, we think that as the State Chamber of Commerce, State Manufacturing Association, it is an important issue. It's an important subject to be talking about. And so that's why we're so excited to be having this discussion today with you all.
Thank you. Thank you. So here's a question that we get quite a bit at the Policy Institute. And Mandy, I'm going to kick it over to you. How can the business community support early childhood education?
Thank you, Candace, for that question. And first of all, thank you for having me this morning. It's an honor to be here among the keynote speaker and the distinguished panelists that you've pulled together, people that I have the privilege of working alongside to move Louisiana's economy forward. And we know that we won't be able to do that if all of our citizens are not able to fully engage in the workforce and in the growth, the economic growth that we are all working so hard to achieve. So thanks for having me, and thank Libby and your entire team for the work that y'all do, presenting factual, data-driven information on the positive impacts of early childhood education. There are several ways the business community can support early education in our state. First, I'll do a shameless plug. Join the Ready Louisiana Coalition. LEDA is a member, and we're a proud member of the coalition. It is a nonpartisan statewide coalition of almost 200 businesses, chambers and economic development organizations, advocacy organizations, and early childhood education professionals that are aligned in seeking sufficient investment in quality, affordable early childhood ed in the state of Louisiana. Another way the business community can support early childhood education is through offering childcare benefits or partial subsidies for their employees, or through directly providing childcare services as a business investment in local workforce preparation for their community. And I know we don't have time today, but I can share some case studies of very large investments made by private sector entities in other states so that their employees can fully participate in helping their businesses to grow and thereby helping the community's economy.
Oh, that would be awesome. Awesome. Well, speaking of other states, Aaron, I'd love to get your comments from U.S. Chamber Foundation perspective. What would you say as far as how the business community can support early childhood education?
Yeah, thanks so much, Candace. And it's great to be here among this cast of all-stars. At the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, we really look to see how can we support state and local chambers, how can we support employers. And I think that one of the ways that we have seen progress at the local level, we always say that childcare is a national crisis that's going to be solved with local solutions. And one of the ways that we support and assist state and local chambers and the business community with that is providing resources and learning about what is going on in other states. It provides a helpful marker, and it also sort of gives states and businesses the opportunity to see what worked, but also what didn't work as they chart their own path to find their local childcare solutions. And we've seen in some states, it could just be a reorganization at a state level. Sometimes if you're talking childcare, whether you're a childcare provider, whether you're a business that wants to partner with a childcare provider, you've got to go to 7 different agencies within the states. And so some states have consolidated into a single Department of Early Childhood Education. At local levels, we've seen businesses band together and either partner with or create a childcare provider. And we've also seen a lot of chambers really uplift childcare providers and acknowledge that in addition to being small businesses, they are part of the business community. I think that a mistake that sometimes we make at the national level is to, it looks like I'm frozen, but hopefully you can still hear me. At the national level is to talk about the childcare community and then over here, the business community. And so acknowledging and supporting the childcare industry and sector as a vital part of the business community and the small businesses themselves has found to, it's just the most flattering screenshot, has been found to really accelerate and innovate ways or partnerships between providers, employers, and working parents.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for that global perspective. Mandy, I'm going to come back over to you. So we know many of the foundational skills that drive business success, so like problem solving, adaptability, are developed in early childhood. So how does investing in early education contribute to building a stronger workforce and a better Louisiana for the future?
Yeah, thank you, Candace. This is a very important point that anytime I'm talking to business owners or policymakers about why we all should care about early childhood education and development, I lean on some of the research that you all have actually shared with the business and economic development community. So here's one point that I lean on first and foremost. And it's that 90% of brain development happens before the age of 5. And that makes early childhood a critical period for building skills that are essential in the workforce. Skills like problem solving and analytical reasoning, literacy, numeracy, and language acquisition. Early learning programs also focus on professional skills. Some people call them soft skills. I've been hanging out with Mark Perna a little bit too much, so we've elevated that term and we call it professional skills. But those skills like self-regulation, communication, teamwork, empathy, these skills are vital in the workplace. They contribute to the employee's ability to collaborate, to solve problems, to effectively communicate with their colleagues and clients. Also, by learning to navigate emotions and relationships at a young age, children are much better positioned and prepared to thrive in a professional environment where these skills are essential and important. Last point I want to share is that a number of studies have validated the linkage between high quality early childhood education and long-term academic success and economic mobility. So children who attend high quality early learning programs are more likely to graduate from high school. They're more likely to pursue higher education, whether that's a skilled trade or a professional degree. And these children are more likely later in life to secure stable employment. So for businesses and the economy, this translates to a more educated, skilled, and capable workforce that can drive innovation and contribute to economic growth. Workers with a higher level of education are often more adaptable to changes in the job market, having those very valuable transferable skills. These workers are more productive and they're able to take on complex tasks that require critical thinking and problem solving abilities. So by investing in early childhood education, our society as a whole, business community, workforce development, economic development, educational institutions, we are together fostering a generation of workers who can contribute in a meaningful way to our workforce and to our economy.
Love that. Love that. So I think we have time for one more question. And this question is going to be for Adam and Will. Will, we'll start with you. So what role can Louisiana's business community play in advocating for policies that expand access to quality early childhood education and strengthen our state's workforce?
Yeah, Candace, and again, as I know we're wrapping up here, again, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity, and Lobby, we're honored to partner with you all and appreciate the work that you're doing and highlighting this incredibly important topic. So, we've touched on it a little bit, and I think a couple of the panelists have said it, and maybe even Susie, but, parents are making up about a third of the current workforce in Louisiana. And again, as we look at policies to move our state forward to compete for the nation's top businesses, we're also competing for the nation's top talent, right? And so, we want to do two things. We want to keep those working parents here in Louisiana, but we also want to bring top talent and working parents to Louisiana. And so, as we look to compete, other states are, trying to do the same thing. I mean, they're trying to pull our talent away from us. And so, as much as we can, I mean, we've got to incentivize those parents to not only participate in the workforce, which I think, as Adam mentioned, we have a high non-participation rate. And if you dig into that, a big reason for that is because there's no access to childcare, or there's no access to affordable childcare. So I think a couple of things that we as the chamber can do and our coalition partners can do is we can advocate for adjustments to the amount businesses are able to contribute towards childcare expenses. Currently the maximum amount, I think, is $5,000. And as you know, that was set years ago, and the cost of child care and in early learning centers, and the cost with all that has gone up tremendously since that number was set. I think we can move that up, and that'll help release that pressure. Update the maximum amount for purchasing childcare slots for employees. We got to adjust that for inflation as well. Give businesses tax credits for allowing these incentivized businesses. Educate businesses on the value of providing and partnering with childcare centers in their area. And so, I think make the business case for early childhood education, not only at the Capitol in Baton Rouge, but within our businesses that are members out in the community, especially in rural areas. That partnership and that education is so valuable, again, because we want to keep our top talent. We want to attract the talent. And again, as parents make up 1/3 of the workforce, and that number's growing, we need them in the workforce. We want them working here, and we want to bring that talent to those parents out of state, and we want them coming to Louisiana.
Awesome. Totally agree. Adam, any remarks or thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you, Candace. I think just to build on what Will said, I think probably if I look at our organization, we just merged with Council for a Better Louisiana, Committee of 100, and renamed as Leaders for a Better Louisiana. And many of our members have been longstanding partners and supporters of the work of the Policy Institute for Children, largely because they see access to early child care as not only a moral right to pursue and important for our state. We have very high rates of child poverty as a state, and they look for major opportunities to drive change for our state. But they also, I think, back up from it and see this as a workforce issue. And I think if we, like Will was describing, start talking about access to childcare and the quality early childhood education as a workforce issue, not just as an education issue, it starts to separate what that means. The Baton Rouge Area Foundation did a really interesting project recently where they took data from the EBR school system and started to look backwards at the performance of kids who have scored low on entrance exams in kindergarten, their readiness to learn with some of the literacy and numeracy tests that can be done as you're coming into kindergarten. What they've seen is those kids who score the lowest on their those entrance exams at kindergarten have the toughest chance of success when they get to third grade. And we know that in all the data, when you see third grade literacy rates are a predictor of long-term success. Well, that readiness has a lot to do with how you arrive ready at kindergarten. And I know it's hard sometimes to see the long span of education as a path into a workforce, but it definitely is, which is why I think we need to all be thinking about how to talk about this as a workforce issue. Kind of going back to what Will really, I think, nailed, is the importance of thinking about how the tax code of Louisiana encourages employers to help address some of these issues. Some of the existing tax credits, like the school readiness tax credit, while helpful, do need to be updated and modified. Business leaders can go to the Capitol, talk to their local House and Senate members, talk to administration officials, and encourage them to go bigger on those programs. They are critical ways to help kind of drive change on behalf of employers, but also on behalf of their workers to be able to have access to these programs. For all those reasons that Will talked about and I talked about earlier, Mandy did great, and appreciate Aaron's comments from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation perspective. These are things that need to be happening across Louisiana if we're going to try to bring more folks into the workforce to address these challenges that we have across Louisiana to scale the overall availability of workers for our state. So I think really appreciate y'all having us, but I think that's a big deal for us to be supportive of.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. That is our time for the panel. Again, thank you for your time this morning, your valuable insights, being a voice of the business community, and really understanding the link between childcare, our economy, and the workforce implications. So we certainly appreciate you all. At this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Libby Saunier to close us out.
Thanks so much, Candace. And also thank you so much to our panelists that we had today, as well as Susie Showen. When we think about this work, fundamentally, we do know that this is about a workforce of today and tomorrow issue. And so I can't think of a better group of people than what we had this morning on this brief business breakfast briefing. And so we just want to say thank you again to our esteemed panelists for joining us today. And thank you to everyone who took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's program and subsequent discussion. It's my pleasure to close out a robust and successful month of programming in recognition of Early Ed Month. I also want to extend one final thank you to all of our Early Ed sponsors this year: Entergy, Our Lady of the Lake, Jones Walker, Agenda for Children, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana, Claire's Little Lambs, Leaders for a Better Louisiana, For Providers by Providers, Gamble Communications, Gulf Coast Bank and Trust Company, Louisiana Public Health Institute, Resourceful Consulting, Save the Children Action Network, United Way of Southeast Louisiana, Urban League of Louisiana, Young Scholars Academy, and the YWCA of Greater Baton Rouge. I want to thank our partners, sponsors, and hosts at each Early Learning Center site that we visited throughout the state. We still have 2 more next week. And the business leaders, legislators, media partners, parents, childcare providers, and supporters throughout this month. You made this month possible, and it was no small task. We at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children are incredibly grateful. Let's remember to continue the passion and the fervor for early childhood education sector displayed this month throughout the year. We'd also like to thank our governor, Governor Jeff Landry, for declaring February 2025 as Early Education Month in our state. To learn more about early childhood education in Louisiana and support all of our efforts, please visit policyinstitutela.org. Thank you.